Okay, we are in Portion-Tezaveh. It's on page 464 in the Art Scroll. The very first pasuk says, "V'yata b'nei Israel," and you will command b'nei Israel, v'yichvu elecha, and they will take, or they'll bring to you. That's probably a better way of saying it. Or they will take for you shemen zayit zach, pure olive oil. Cut it, or crushed, pure crushed olive oil, or pressed olive oil. Or for lighting, to the light, lahalot near tamid, to bring up the light, a continual light. Okay, so a light for it. So they'll say in English, what? Take for clear olive oil, crushed for illumination, to kindle a lamp continually. Okay, very nice. That's how the chapter starts out. What's missing here is a very simple, very strange thing. Every other parsha in the Torah, every other one, will start by Vayidabir Hashem Moshe lemor. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, or Vayomer Hashem Moshe lemor. Moshe is mentioned usually at the beginning, if not all the way through. In this one particular parsha, his name is not mentioned even once. I challenge you to go through the parsha. For all those who argue on that, but there's no mention of Moshe. And the one who points this out is not Rashi, not the Ramban, it's rather the Baal HaTorim. You have to go to the small print. As a matter of fact, not even Art Scroll, from what I remember, brought it up.
Really?
Yes. So I thought that was also interesting. The Baal HaTorim explains, Lo Hizkir Moshe B'zeh Seder, that Moshe's name Moshe is not mentioned by name in this book, unlike any other part of the Chumash since his birth. There is no other parsha that does not have his name, with the exception of Deuteronomy. And the reason that is not mentioned here is because he will say in a little while, Mecheni na misifracha asher katavta. If you do not listen to me to save the Jewish people, then wipe me out from your book that you are writing. That's what he says to God. If you will not listen to my prayer and save the Jewish people because of the golden calf, the incident of the golden calf, which we'll read in Parsha Kitisa, then wipe me out from the book that you are writing. And so we learn, now what happened? Did he save the Jewish people? Of course he did. We're still here talking. Okay, so the answer is yes. So if that's the case, then there was no reason to wipe him out from the book, correct? He should have been listed. So the Baal HaTorim gives a very important rule that we should follow. The klalat chacham, when a rav or something like that, a chacham, gives a curse, even himself, afilu al tanai, even if it's on condition, it will still be done. So when Yaakov said, whoever has the idols in their possession, they should be killed, what happened? He didn't know that Rachel had them. And what happens? Rachel dies. Reuven, if I remember the Midrash correctly, Reuven said, if I don't bring Binyamin back, then kill my first two sons. And I think his first two sons actually did die. Yeah. So whenever a chacham or a tzaddik is going to make a statement, beware of the statement, because that will come to haunt you one of these fine days. Okay, that's what we're learning. And I wouldn't just put up to chachamim, I would put up to anybody. When we as Jews say something, Hashem may not do it at that particular moment, probably will not, by the way, but down the line, he may decide to say, oh, remember that when you told me to do this sort of thing? Now I have to listen and game over. Okay, so we should be the biggest thing the Baal HaTorim is teaching us is be careful with your choice of words. And then he also says, Tzavah b'menorah, and he gives this command of the menorah. That's what we're talking about right now. V'chein b'tamid, and also in the Tamid where it says Tzavah b'nei Israel, where it says, in both cases, it says Tzavah b'nei Israel, right? It says is talking about you command them. You have to command them. Atat tzaveh b'nei Israel. You have to command b'nei Israel, and they will give to you or take for you. How do they say that again? They should we take? Oh, they shall take for you. Good. They shall take for you all pure olive oil. So, by the way, how do you make this pure olive oil? What does it mean? Rashi says b'li shmarim, without leads, like we learned in the Masechta of Menachot. So, how do you do that?
Without what?
Leads, the dregs. Dregs.
Without remains or leads.
Remains. Leads. Leeds.
L-E-E-V-S?
D.
Leads.
Leads. The dregs.
The what?
D-R-E-G-S.
I
Dregs.
don't know what that means.
The sediment.
Oh.
There you go. I think of all these
So
different.
I had never heard the word leads.
After it's pressed, it has to be filtered somehow.
No. What happens is you don't press it hard. You just get the first drop.
Really?
Right. For the menorah, you had to it would come from the top of the tree. They would climb to the top of the tree, and then they would take down the ripe one. You just press it a little. Oh. The drop comes out. Then you put it into the press. That's the menorah. Then you can press it for the other stuff.
Oh, in other words, as opposed to just pressing it for cooking oil.
Right. There's only for the menorah.
As we saw in one of the places we visited, we saw an olive press
right.
from Talmudic times. It was in an ancient Talmudic village during that
correct
period of time.
Okay.
And like a huge stone wheel, like spinning around, it turns and rolls around.
Okay.
Thing. And he says the reason that you need such pressure is that it not only crushes the olive but crushes the seed, and that's called the virgin olive, the first pressing.
Okay.
That's apparently the best oil for cooking.
So like I said, for this though, they had to get pure olive oil, so it could not have any sediment.
Just a light pressure.
Light pressure takes the first drop out. That's how they explain it.
That's why it took so long to get enough for Hanukkah.
Well, yeah, because you need 17 liters for every night.
For a full to burn
for every night. Every night.
To get enough to burn for the. Wait a minute. So it took.
Need 17 liters to light the menorah on a daily basis.
It took an additional 7 days.
Correct.
To get enough just to burn for one night. So you said.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then they would make up more. Correct. Okay. So it says they commanded them, and they're using the word command. Why? Because there is a chisaron kis. There's a loss of money. So therefore, you need to, whenever there's a loss of money, I have to remind you to be careful and to be prudent in doing this. And that's why it says tzaveh. Okay, so whenever there's a loss of money, remember, I'm giving something to you. I'm taking from you something that's going to cost you. If I would just let you press it to the end, so it's not as much as a loss. And I'm just asking, but here is a major loss of money. Then it also says the word Tetzaveh has a gematria of Nashim Tziva, that women are commanded to light the candles. The numerical value of Tetzaveh is equal to Nashim Tziva. You like that? Who would think of these things? Okay, only the Volatorum. So it's a remez. He says the hint that women have to light candles as an obligation on Shabbat, and then it says furthermore, it says Vayichvelecha. You should they will take for you to light the menorah. And it's Rashi and the Beltram says, Avalani eni tzarich la'ara, but I, God, don't need the light. This is for you guys. I'm getting it all for you. And then katit. Again, this means pressed. So it's a hint to the 410 years and the 420 years that they, in both temples, so it was the first temple, 410 years, the second temple, 420 years. And Katit, if you just take those numbers, Chav Tov, and then Yud Tov, so you have 410, 420. Okay, so it's a hint to those, that would be how long the menorah will be lit for that extended time. So also, very interesting stuff that he's saying. Okay, so now we go a little further, and it says, one other thing. It says, lahalot near, to bring up the fire, the light, the lamp continually. So, R Hirsch has a very nice thing that I enjoyed reading. He says, this expression, the kindling lights, occurs only with reference to the service of the menorah. It is the precise description of the demand to keep the kindling flame against the wick until the latter burns by itself. Namely, shetehei shalav et olam eleha. You understand what's going on? I have to put the lamp I have to take the light from the seventh stick or the middle stick and put it to the wick and make sure that it lights. Like on the Chanukah menorah. Think about that. On the Chanukah menorah, I take my shamish and I make sure that the candle is lit from that shamish. Yeah. I don't want to use it for anything else. So he says, what's this teaching? That the work of a Torah teacher is to make himself superfluous. Not necessary. The work of the Torah teacher is to make himself superfluous, not to keep the quote-unquote laity and lasting dependence on the teacher or priests. At the same time, it is an admonition to enduring patience for teacher and pupil. So on two sides. One, I shouldn't try to keep you, and this is, by the way, we were talking about Christianity before we started. That's what the Roman Catholics did. By not allowing their people to learn their Bible, the reason they gave was they wouldn't understand it without the priest. So therefore, you've made them dependent upon you, and you're stuck. Then you always have to go to the clergy for that. In Judaism, while we certainly would say you need the Gemara to understand certain things, everything actually, the Gemara to understand, we teach you how to learn Gemara on your own. You're not staying with the Rebbe constantly. The Rebbe will give you the nuances that you wouldn't have seen other times. But he's supposed to give you the skills by which you can now go on your own. And that's why people learn Tafayomi, or they learn in Kollel for 50,000 years, whatever they're doing. But they're learning on their own. They're not depending on the rabbi to say, okay, here's what it means, so on and so forth. Again, when I have a question, I can certainly go to the rabbi, and I can certainly say to my teacher, this is how I'm understanding it, and I'm not getting it. Can you help me out? So what will he do? He's not going to, if he's a good teacher, he's not going to just give you the answer. He's going to say, let's work it out, or try again, or give you some other tool. I know when I used to ask my rebbeim something, what they used to do is instead of just saying what the answer is, they would give me another book. Here, it's right here. Tell me what you think about this. What? Can't you just give me an answer? Can't I just Google it? And the answer is no. We don't want to be. That's what you're learning from this one line of first pasuk. Lahalot ner tamid, that you have to cause the light to go up continually. You don't keep yourself necessary. Now, by the way, what will happen, and he's fighting a lot of people with this statement. Hirsch was very big against the reform movement. It's clear that he was doing that. And he was saying to them, you're keeping the people ignorant, and that's not good. That's not what the Torah is asking us. The Torah is demanding us. He's not yelling at the Christians. He's yelling at the Jews. And he's saying to the Jews, you are keeping the people down, and you're making them ignorant. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be educating them so they no longer need us. We don't want laity. We want balabatim who know what they're doing. That's why in the German world, Torah im Derech Eretz, they didn't produce many rebbeim. They produced a lot of balabatim who know how to learn.
Huh.
They were all professionals, or they were doing what they were doing. They knew how to learn. But they weren't becoming rabbis. That was where their failure, if you will, historically would happen, because they weren't producing that sort of thing. But he wasn't looking for that. So maybe that was his success. I don't know. That would be an interesting way to look. It's a success, it's a failure. But that's what was going on. But that's who he's fighting when he's saying this. But it's an important thing. Like I said, on one hand, you don't want to become superfluous. I loved what he said. You want to become superfluous, and at the same time, you have to have patience. You have to have this patience. Because if the student doesn't get it, or if you don't understand your teacher at first, you may say, leave me alone. No, that teacher is a connection to Sinai. You can't just say, leave me alone. You have to understand what he's talking about too, or she. He's and she's Nechama Leibowitz. Nobody's going to look at her and say she wasn't the ultimate teacher. And you had Barori, you had other people who are, I'm not talking about the people who think that they know something today, but the others who really did know and were fluent in stuff. The Beis Yaakov system, by the way, those Rebbitzins came out, and I have to give them a lot of credit. They know Tanakh quite well. We don't know Tanakh as well as Beis Yaakov girls know Tanakh. They learn, that's what they learn. Okay? And they know it, they know what the Meforshim, they know things. And it's something that I remember when I was in college, we would ask a question. So he would say, you have to ask my wife this on Tanakh. I don't know. My wife knows Tanakh. I know Gemara. Which is also strange. You know Gemara, but you don't know Tanakh. It was a split in the lineage, if you will. I don't agree with it. I think we should know both quite well. Okay, but that's what he's arguing. So I thought it was very important to bring that up. Okay? Yeah? Okay. Now, also, when it comes to the art scroll, he also brings something down. That he says like this in 20. He says, regarding the commands up to now to build various parts of the tabernacle, Moshe has been instructed to convey the instructions to those who would do the work, but he had no personal involvement in the labor. In the first three commands of this Parsha, however, Moshe is told, now you, implying that he was to involve himself personally with these tasks. The three were the preparation of the oil. Okay, that's number one. And then, does he say how they did it? So I saw how they did. I forget where I saw this. The way that they brought the oil was that they found it. That they had to bring it from Mitzrayim, and he had to look at it and say it was good, because he couldn't have found it in the desert. That wasn't in the wilderness. They wouldn't have found it there. So I forget who I saw that from, but I saw them saying that. The other one was the designation of the Kohanim and the selection of the wise and talented people who would make the vestments and build the tabernacle. The importance of these three commandments may be that the oil represents the light of wisdom and holiness, illuminating Israel's pursuits. The Kohanim are the living embodiment of our role in the sacred service, and the construction of the tabernacle and the vestments in which the Kohanim serve demonstrate Israel's capacity to elevate human activity to a godly level. Oh, here he says.
Ramban, yeah.
I'm sorry?
About the oil.
Right. So it's right here about the oil. It says, in the wilderness, oil for the menorah could not be produced in the manner prescribed by the Torah, because no olive oils or no olive trees were available. Consequently, they had to use the oil that had been prepared in Egypt. That oil had to be brought to Moshe for his inspection to certify that it was of necessary purity. That's the Ramban. It's good. That's what I saw it. I knew I saw it somewhere. The future tense indicated that oil would have to be brought continuously, because the commandment to kindle the menorah was ongoing and not merely during the inauguration ceremonies of the temple. So that's the Sforno. Okay, so you have this whole concept of they have to bring this fresh oil and so on and so forth. Clear oil. So it says, next pasuk, it says, Ba'ohel Moed, in the tent of meeting, Michutz the Parochet, outside of the Parochet, the partition. Asher ala that was on the testimony, near the testimony tablets, fine. Yaroch oto Aaron v'nav me'erev haboker. So then Aaron and his sons would set it up from evening until morning, lifnei Hashem, before Hashem. Chukat olam ledorotam, an everlasting decree for the generations. Me'ei b'nei Israel, from Bnei Israel. From Bnei Israel. Now, what does continual mean? If I tell you continual, what do you picture? Always, right? Okay. So Rashi explains, doesn't mean always. It doesn't mean continually. It means every night. Every night. Every night they had to light it. And he says, he'll continue to say, Kamo sha'ata omer, ola tamid, as he said in ola tamid, a continually burnt offering. And it's only during the daytime. He gives a whole bunch of examples where they keep saying tamid, but tamid doesn't mean always going on. What it means is you must do it on a daily basis. At the specific time, you're supposed to do it. Now, how much oil would you have to put in to keep it lit for the whole night? So this doesn't change. We don't go for the summertime nights, we go for the wintertime nights, which is why it had to have so much oil in which to burn. That's why you need the 17.5 liters, I think they came up with, to keep that lit. So, but that would be the tamid. That's what they mean by continually being lit. Okay, so now and it's also interesting, and that they had to start off with that mitzvah of menorah. Why they start off with that mitzvah of menorah? Because basically we're ending off from the last Parsha of Truma, where we were talking about the Mishkan. So we want to finish that topic off, if you will. So now we come to the next topic, and it says, "V'yata krei v'elecha el ha'aron achicha." Now, I'm sorry, you should bring your to yourself Aaron, your brother, v'ebanav ito, and his sons with him. We talk Bnei Israel from the midst of Bnei Israel. The chahanoli, to serve me. So what is Kohen means? Someone who serves Hashem. That's what you understand. Okay, so that we'll use it as a verb later on, but this is what it means: to serve Hashem, to serve me. Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, V'itama b'nei Aaron. So you have Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, Elazar, and Itamar, the sons of Aaron. Why do I have to say all four? What do you think? If I say Aaron, isn't it obvious that his sons are going to be included in that?
Well, it's only those four. Did he have more, ultimately?
Well, Pinchas is alive. Why don't you use Pinchas? Pinchas is already alive. He wasn't born after this.
Because only those four were going to be selected, and two died later, right?
Right. But I'm saying, but once you say Aaron, so we already know, we should know. In other words, I'm a Kohen. Mm-hmm. My son's a Kohen. God didn't have to announce my son's a Kohen. Or when I was born, God didn't have to announce, so it's going to be Shlomo, and then it's going to be Feivel, then it's going to be Shlomo. Doesn't have to keep announcing that. So why is he announcing it here? That's number one. So the Ramban says, I believe it's the Ramban who brings this down, is that these four were picked because nobody was yet a Kohen, and so they had to be put into the system, as it were. And here you go.
Licensed and registered.
Right, here's a Ramban right here. Sorry?
Licensed and registered.
There you go. If you look, he brings it down. He says the four sons are specified by name, because only they and Aaron were to be anointed as Kohanim. Thus, any children born to them later would be Kohanim automatically. But they had to be inaugurated. Nobody was inaugurated yet. So, however, any of Aaron's already living grandsons, such as Pinchas, were not included in this appointment. They would remain Levites. And only later, when Pinchas does what he does to Cosby, Batzor, and I can't remember the Jewish guy. I remember the girl, Cosby. I forget the.
But it led to that bumper sticker.
I don't know the bumper stricker. What's the bumper stricker?
Spears don't kill people. People kill
Oh,
people.
okay, there you go. Okay, right, okay. So when it came to that, so that's when Pinchas would become, also he would be inaugurated into the kahuna. But until then, not. So that's what's going on. That's why the Torah has to say those 4. Okay, and then it continues, V'asita b'gdei kodesh li'aron achicha. You will make these clothes of holiness, or holy clothes, however you want to put it, from, how does he say it? Vestments of sanctity, good. Okay. For Aaron, your brother, l'chavod u'letif'aret, for glory and splendor. What's going on there? Why you have to say all that for glory and for splendor? What do you think?
Because you shouldn't go in looking like a schlub.
Well, that's one thing. Yes, some people say that actually. Some people, again, all these things I've seen. I just have to keep remembering where I saw it. But it's, he says, again, the vestments were to honor the Kohanim. Their garments were similar to the garb of royalty. But I think it's more, maybe it was again Hirsch I saw this. I'm not sure I see everything. I really have to start writing this stuff down. But it has to do with what you were saying, that you have to come dressed properly. If you to a service of Hashem, you're supposed to come dressed properly, and more than that, by the way, these clothes were made by us. All these vestments will be made by us. So, well, not us, by you guys. No, actually by you. He's with me. Okay, all these clothes will be made by Bnei Israel and through the coffers. So they have. So the uniform that the Kohanim are wearing is really owned by the Kehillah. It's not ours, and that's why we can only use it for the service. And that way they have part of the service. But that's why it's the Chavot Ulutif Aret. It's an amazing thing how they do all this. Okay. So then it continues on to say, you shall speak to all the wise-hearted people, which is not kol chachamim, not all, but wise-hearted. It's a strange language. Ruach chachma, that I have filled them with this spirit of wisdom. Va'asu a big day Aharon lekatcha lechanali, and they will make the clothes of Aaron to honor him, to sanctify him. And to serve, so that he can to sanctify him, to minister to me. Rashi explains this and says to sanctify him, to bring him into the kahuna through these clothes, that he should be a minister to me. And that's when Rashi says that the language of kahuna is always talking about shirut, of this service. Another thing that it says also is he's talking to the Chachmei Lev that he's filling with this wisdom. If you think about how these people were, they were working in mud. When we're not so far removed from Egypt. How far are we removed from Egypt? 3 months, 4 months? 5 months, you want to argue? 5 months maybe. We're not that far removed. We went through started to Broad, so it's 4 months. So you're looking at 4 months. That's all you're looking at. These people were they were slaves. They were working in the not the coal mines, the mud mines. They were putting up all these things. Their hands were not, they didn't know how to
do the fine work.
Do the fine work.
Right, well, that was the past generation, though, wasn't it? The ones who...
No, there's 3 days. There's only 30 days.
Still
Again, there's only 5 months, 4 months later.
I'm going to Yeshua.
Okay, so you have to come back to here. This is they're the generation who came out.
Yeah.
The Ramban says that this was mamash a miracle. That people, that's why it says that I filled their hearts. I filled them with this knowledge. This was miraculous that these people, certainly Betzalel and Oholiab, who will be named in next week's Parsha, it was miraculous that these people know how to do this. They're not, it's fine work. You can't, it's very hard to do fine work if your hands are swollen from hard work.
Oh, a few months later, they were.
But you weren't trained that way.
You'd have to think, or you could. I would have assumed that there were some of the enslaved who were doing fine work who were artisans. They just weren't allowed to do it for their own benefit.
Oh, so why would you think that they would do that?
Because when you have slaves and you can train them to be artisans. And
to do the carpentry work, and etc. In other words,
carpentry, gold work, silver work.
Maybe the Egyptians considered that menial work also.
Yeah, because working with your hands.
If you would want to say that, then fine. You would have a possibility that that's where they come from. Then they have to still be inspired to know what to do.
Who did the slaves belong to? They belonged to the state.
Yeah.
Pharaoh.
Yeah. They're belonging to the big cheese, and he's having these tombs built and cities built, and very decorative. They were painted, they were...
but let's understand something. They were also trying, with all that being said and done, they were still trying to rid the world of Jews. That was part of their agenda. Let's make them work hard. Let's make them work hard so they stop producing. And if they stop producing, then we can. They won't take over our land.
But there were capos. I would, even in our last trip through slavery.
You're talking about Germany?
80 years ago, yeah, in Germany.
60. 60.
No, almost 80 years.
1945, right?
60, 75 years.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So our last trip through slavery, even in the camps, you had people who were granted meager privilege for acting as overseers and supervisors, and you had people who, because they came with trades and knowledge, were put to work as artisans.
Oh, okay. Let's look at that. You had the Holocaust where people were coming from that business. But now I have generations of slaves. And 3 generations. I'm not training you to do that.
But were they all shepherds? Were they not artisans? Did they not?
Well, when they came in, they were all shepherds. Yes, they were all shepherds. Because they weren't, I can't answer if B'nai...
We don't know.
I would say I can't answer if B'nai Yaakov had some of the traits.
Somebody got to make the jewelry for the wives, or there would have been a lot of discord.
No, they buy it from the Egyptians.
We have no commentary about that, how Betzalel and how they learned.
No, so that's why what the Ramban says is it was miracle. It's miraculous. Because he's arguing, unlike what Meyer wants to argue, that they were not involved in that. He says that they were slaves and they were working in the salt mines, if you will, and they weren't skilled in that. And that
because we have no other source that tells us anything different.
Correct. And he's saying that it would mean, and I hear what you're saying about the Holocaust, about the people that the Germans or whoever was enslaved. But they were still coming out of that thing, out of that profession.
You can argue that Hashem says, you're going to have the drawing talent of a Picasso, but he's not around yet.
Picasso is horrible, so it would be somebody.
No, actually, his early work was magnificent.
I don't like his work.
His early work was very good.
Okay, fine.
But you say, you're going to have the ability to create this, and you're going to be able to take gold and silver and wood and work it into these specific artifacts. You can argue miraculous, and because it's not described, that's Ramban's commentary. I would also think there's a strong possibility that some of these people were employed as artisans.
So I like what you're saying. I can't argue because I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So like I said, the Ramban is arguing that it was a miracle. That's what he's arguing. You want to say it wasn't as much, you would agree that was somewhat of a miracle that they would last that long in the system. Because like I said, just because my father was a meat cutter doesn't mean I know how to cut meat. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I can tell you for a fact, I can't cut meat. I know how to cut my steak when it's cooked right, but otherwise I don't know how to cut meat. Okay? I don't know how to cut the chickens without the bandsaw. Give me a bandsaw, I can cut in chicken too. But without the bandsaw, I can't cut the chicken. So you have that sort of thing going on, where the one generation doesn't necessarily pass on. Now, you could argue at the same time that the slavery, one of the things of slavery was, you will learn this, and that's it. Fine, I'm not going to, even if I had to learn it, that sort of thing, when it comes to the fine work, I still think it's very hard to force the guy. Like I said, when it comes to something like cutting a chicken, I guess if I would have, after cutting myself 1,000 times more, I probably would have been able to do it myself. But when it comes to the other things, you really have to be an artisan. And that's training. There's a lot of training, and some people just don't have the talent.
There's some descriptions about the departure from Egypt where people are bringing, they're bringing things with them.
Gold and silver, right?
But stuff that they also had.
They had
flocks. They
had flocks, right?
They had animals. Presumably, leaving aside Cecil B. DeMille's version of it, presumably they had some household goods.
Correct.
And if they were slaves, would the Egyptians have said, "Oh, by the way, all of you each get a pot and a bowl and a spoon," or did they have to make it themselves? And if so, then do you not have some level of artisans in the community?
I would argue that they could just buy it.
As slaves?
They weren't slaves like we had the black slaves in America. They had property. They were living in Goshen. There's no argument about that.
And there were black slaves here who had property.
Okay, so they could buy things.
Yeah, if they had some coins left over.
Fine, but the point is that these people had commodity what they could sell. So whether or not they made their own bowls, I would greatly question that. They probably bought it at the 5 at 9, like we all do. Okay, so I can't imagine they're going to make their own. But if they did, they did. So then, how is it to make a bowl? We're talking about fine, skilled labor. Mm-hmm. That's not, you're not proving that they have that.
No.
You're suggesting.
I'm suggesting it.
They're suggesting that maybe they were hired to that. And I'm not, like I said, it's an interesting theory. It's very possible. I don't know. The Ramban doesn't like that. He'd rather go for the miraculous. I don't blame him. But it's like I said.
Who am I to argue with Ramban?
Yeah, you can argue, but it's. I think you'll lose. But you can argue. The point is, and we'll have to stop here. But the point is that Hashem says, "Hashem eleitem ruach chachma," that I filled them with the spirit of. He says, I invested them with a spirit of wisdom, and they will, as a result, they will make the clothes of the Kohanim and to sanctify and to serve me. So I just think it's interesting that we have this, and I said this last week too, that we went from Hashem, the master lawgiver, to go to the master builder, and now to the master tailor. And we're seeing that God is really involved in this whole process. And as you go through, and again, I would suggest that you go through the comments of what's his name? Of the Art Scroll, and see the pictures that they make, because we're talking about the different clothes that the Kohanim had to wear, and as to why they had to be that way, why they had to wear bells at the bottom of their robe. What lesson are we learning from that? There's a lot of lessons involved in the clothing that the Kohanim had to wear, and certainly the Kohen Gadol, and just the regular Kohanim. And it's something that behooves us to, because we like to just fly through these, because it's, to me at least, it's some of the most boring parshiyot that you have. And they're so hard to understand because we don't have any concept of these clothes. So that's why the pictures really do come in handy. And also the rabbis behind it saying why it was so necessary to do these various things becomes a very enlightening situation. Hopefully it will make people like the Parsha more, and they'll walk away with saying, oh, there's something here to learn today. Okay.